Hello and welcome to this tutorial on adding text and customizing your user interface for your games in Crayta. Firstly, I'm going to talk about how to add text into your game world, and then we're going to look at how to use UI widgets to customize your user interface. They both use the same principal asset, which is the UI widget, but they do so in very different ways. In order to add text into your game world, the first thing you need to do is add a locator to attach it to. A locator represents the point in 3D space, which will make it really easy for you to move your UI widget around. Once you have your locator, click Entity, Add, UI Widget, New UI Widget. To make your widget appear in the world, make sure that the type is World or World Camera Facing. World will always be in the same direction, facing the same direction in the same location, whereas World Camera Facing will face the camera regardless of which direction you're looking at it from. I've used these two different types of UI widget in my game. So over here, let's start over here. There is, I've created this UI widget here, which is just some text, which is the plane signature. This is, I've made this type World, which means that it looks like it's embedded on the plane. And over here, on the radio, I've added a radio message, which always faces the player regardless of which way they're looking at it from. This is because sound travels in different directions, so this emphasizes that point that doesn't matter which direction you're looking at, you're coming to the radio from, you can hear that this is what it's saying. As well as adding text, in Crayta, UI widgets can also be added to the user interface for the player. So in order to do that, you need to go and edit the player template. So here I click on this drop down and click player. And you can see that I've added an intro screen. This is a really good example of when you can add a UI to the player. Notice that the type here is set to screen, which means that it's superimposed on the screen. You can add your own graphics, such as this one here, by heading over to create.crayta.com and then clicking on the My UI Images and Upload UI Image to add your own UI images. You can also use the player template in order to add things like a health bar, which is downloadable as a package from the community, or you could add your own UI widgets, which might be, for example, collecting objects in your game. If you want to add instructions so that users can find out how to play your game, best place to do that is on the user. The player represents the player's character within the game. The user represents the user interface itself. Here you can see I've added a widget which tells the user exactly what to press. Between these squiggly brackets will be swapped out in-game to the particular icon you've asked for. For example, if I wanted to use the jump button, I'd say press jump icon to interact. And when this game runs, between those parentheses, that will be replaced by whatever button the user has set up to jump. So if they're on controller, that would be A. If they're on mouse and keyboard, that might be space, or it might be whatever they've customized their controller to be. One thing to bear in mind is where your UI widget will be seen. For most of the time, you can leave your UI widgets to be visible to auto. However, there might be special circumstances where you want to change this. If you set this visibility to everyone, it will make your UI widget visible to all the players. If it's set to local only, it will only be visible to the player who it's appearing for. And if it's remote only, it will be visible to everyone except the player that it's appearing for. For example, a good use of remote only would be on this player, on the player template, to use the player name tag above their head. And that would then need to be set to remote only because the player doesn't want to see their own name tag constantly above their head. Whereas the player health, for example, you would want that to be local only because that health bar in the top left corner should only be visible to you. You may also want to use requires cursor. For example, on this map screen, I'll make visible, I've included a close button. In order to click that close button, I've used the requires cursor. This means that when this map displays, the cursor will also pop up. This is especially useful for things like inventories or shops, or when you need to interact with something. For example, you could also write a script which, when you click on the map, leaves a locator or a check mark on the map itself. And that's it. I hope that you found this tutorial useful in creating and editing your UI in Crayta.